Hi, everyone. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U. And tonight we're going to be talking about selling screenplays from outside Los Angeles. And my guess is most of you are from outside LA. So this is going to be an important and valuable subject for you. Let me just walk you through what we're going to do here. First, we are going to start with a crash course on breaking in. And this kind of gives you the basics, but it's like, I think a lot of people go from writing a script to how do I get in the door? And if they don't have these basics, they're in trouble. So that'll help. Second, we're going to look at the pyramid of producers. This will show you where your market might be. Who are you going to? What kind of producers? Third, we'll talk about building credibility. Your level of getting indoors is almost entirely based on your credibility. If you're somebody who just had a blockbuster movie that happened, suddenly you're getting in the top doors in the industry. If you're somebody who is brand new, hasn't done anything yet, well, then it's about how do you build that credibility so you can get in those higher level doors. And then it's about crafting your pitch. You know, what works and what doesn't in a pitch. So I'm going to give you some key tips here that I think will make a difference, and you'll be able to look at your current pitch and see, does it match what producers, agents, and managers need to see? We'll then talk about the journey from you to A-list. So this will just give you some steps that you can look and say, oh, here's where I'm at, and here's what I need to do to get up here, right? And finally, we'll talk about the upcoming class, Writing Incredible Movies. This is a program, we just finished the first one. We've already had, out of that group, it finished about a month ago, we've already had one person win a contest. We've had 4 people who have made some kind of deals and one person who's gotten a manager. So this class really is exactly what it says. You are writing incredible movies instead of just good stuff, right? It makes a huge, huge difference. So let's jump into this. This is the crash course. This is the thing I wanted to make sure that you saw. So let's talk about it. Succeeding in this industry is not a lottery ticket. There's a lot of people who think it is. And by lottery ticket, I mean, I say to somebody, you know, what steps do you want to take to get a producer? And they say, I want to go right to the studio and make my $1 million deal. And it's like, okay, that's lottery ticket thinking. You know, every once in a while that happens, but it's like, you know, 1 in 100,000. You don't just go from 0 to, you know, to 100 without having something serious happening in your life. That's a major change. I think it would stress most people out. So what it really is it's a transformational journey where you up your game beyond what you think is possible, right? This, you know, if you look at the people who think, I wrote my first script, I'll just keep writing at that level, and sooner or later somebody will say yes to me. It's like, I actually know some of those people who have written 20 scripts and still haven't made a deal. You've got to up your game, right? You've got to consider this a transformational journey. To go from, I've interviewed about 100 A-list screenwriters and I've asked them how they got there. To go from, you know, just writing your first or second or third script to the point of being A-list, that is as big a transformational journey as any action movie you've seen, right? It's some serious stuff. And it's absolutely possible. In fact, we can make it a lot easier for you. But you've got to decide up front, you're willing to up your game beyond what you think is possible right now. Besides the basics, and the basics I'm listing here is learning, creating, and writing every day. There are 4 keys that will help you elevate constantly. But let me go back to this learning, creating, and writing every day. You see this all the time. I was just looking on Twitter last night and I saw somebody ask a pro, what's your best advice for a writer? And they said, write every day. You know what they're doing is they're just saying a cliche that comes to them. They're also kind of saying here, if you're unwilling to write every day, you don't belong here. But I'm going to say it's beyond that. It's not just writing every day. I know people who have written every day for 15 years and still haven't made things happen. It's learning, creating, and writing every day. Learning means you are finding out what's the next thing you need to know, and you're going through the process of getting that information, putting it into action, going through the process of using that information until it becomes yours. Creating means you are doing something where you're stepping outside the box. And sometimes I'll say, you need to be creating and writing every day. And they'll say, well, I'm editing my script. And it's like, no, editing isn't creating. Editing is you're just working with words, and it's valuable, it's important, it's part of the process. Creating is you coming up with your next concept. It's you coming up with a new character for the upcoming script. It's you writing an outline for that script. It's you, writing your first scene, those kinds of things. There you're creating because it didn't exist beforehand, right? That's part of how you define that creating thing. What existed and where is it now? If you just say, I moved around a bunch of words, wordsmithing, it's like, again, valuable, but it's writing, it's not creating. So this is incredibly important. I learn every day. Every single day I'm learning something new. Every day I create something new, right? And I write every day. The more you do that, it'll change who you are as a person, as a writer. It will elevate who you are. If you only took one piece of advice from me, it'd be this one: learn, create, and write every day. Don't leave out any of those. So here are the 4 things that you need. First, build your belief in yourself. And I would say this is something you want to constantly do. You want to be, and I'll give you at the end some ways to do it beyond what we say here, but you want to be constantly building your belief in yourself. Now, the way you do that is you consistently build your confidence, your credibility, and your professional skills. Let's go back to these. Confidence means how you feel about yourself, but it also means if you're in a meeting with a producer and they're asking you to think outside the box, you already know you can do it, right? If you're in a meeting with a producer and they're asking you to change the pitch, you already know you can do it, right? You believe in yourself. You absolutely know. If they turn you down, you're still confident enough to continue to build a relationship, to set up the next time you're going to come back and pitch them, right? It should be something where you just naturally deal with what's going on in front of you. Credibility, which I'll talk about later also, is, who do they see you as when you approach them, right? The higher your level of credibility, like right up here, the higher the doors you're going to get into. When somebody tells me no one will look at my script, please know 98% of the time, they haven't built any credibility yet. And this is something I think a lot of people think, I've got to have an agent or a manager before I start doing this stuff. It's like, no, if you want to get an agent or manager, you need to start doing this now. And I'm serious about that. It makes a big difference. And then professional skills. Having talked with all these A-list screenwriters and asked them about how they got where they were, I can tell you, they always believed in themselves to some degree. A lot of them had doubts along the way, but they kept going. But once they got to the level where they have true professional skills, they know they can do anything in a script. They can do anything, no matter what a producer asks them to do. If a producer asks them to change almost everything, they have the skills to do it. I've taken people into meetings with studios before where the producer would start giving feedback and the writer would flip out. I had that happen to me 3 times before I went, wait a minute, I've got to find out beforehand if they can handle these meetings. And what's going on is the writer just didn't have the skills to be able to rethink that project right in front of that producer. Those are professional level skills. So the higher your skill level, again, the more confidence you'll have, the more belief you'll have in yourself. When you've mastered this, nothing can stop you. So this is another one of those sets of things I would say, make sure you do this consistently, build confidence, credibility, and professional skills. And then you want to raise your writing and who you are as a writer to a professional quality level. A lot of times people talk about, how could they improve the writing, the script itself? But again, I'll tell you, there's a lot of people who have written scripts that I'll go, how many scripts have you written? And they'll say 15. And I'll look back at their 3rd script, and the quality of writing on their 15th script is the same quality as they did in their 3rd script. What they were doing was they were learning up till that point. They were raising who they are as a writer. And then they just went, okay, I'm going to go into autopilot and I'm just going to keep writing. And it's like, you know what? This is the big key right here. You've got to elevate who you are as a writer. And I'm assuming right now that most of the people I'm talking with haven't yet made deals in Los Angeles. If you've already made deals, if you're already A-list, you may not have to do this, right? It just depends. But if you've already made deals and you're inside the door, but you haven't had anything big happen, you got to keep doing this. What I've seen is the people who, as soon as they get inside the industry, they start to realize how much they need to elevate who they are as a writer, and it becomes one of their primary pursuits. So what I'm suggesting is that you make it your primary pursuit before you get here. It will give you so much better of a chance. And this is just kind of a tip. Anybody can write a script. Very few write professionally. It's like if you talk about coverage, for instance, most coverage firms say they give a recommend to the top 5%. That means 95% didn't make that mark. So your job is to get to where, anybody who reads your script wants to recommend it. They want to tell everybody about it, right? And any coverage that's given says the word recommend for the writer and the script. Now, by the way, higher level skills equals higher quality. That's it. Professionals, if you're going to if you want to create a pro script, you need to know it accomplishes professional purposes that fit the industry needs. And let me tell you what I mean by that. A professional script has considered things like, how do we sell this script to actors? How do we get major actors to sign on? It's considered things like, how do they sell it up the layers, right? When you go from small producer to big producer to studio to streamer, how do they keep selling it as they go up those steps, right? It's considering the market needs. And I know there are some people out there that will tell you should never think about that kind of stuff. But I got to tell you, it's like if you say, I'm going to go to Rome, and you're not looking to see what the weather's going to be like in Rome so you can decide how you dress, chances are you're going to get caught by surprise. And this is the same thing. If you're writing screenplays and you're not thinking about how you're going to pitch them, how you're going to sell them, chances are your creativity is not focused in that area. And so you need to do that in order to get where you want to go. And then this is the other advice I give. This is the people who've written 3 scripts, learned enough, and then just start writing from that point on. Keep moving up. Don't allow yourself to plateau. One more thing, going from unknown to known. How do you do this? So you build your reputation not just by the script. You build it by the pitch. In order, like, for instance, let's say you're pitching. My wife and I, Cheryl and I, we got scripts, 35 different screenplays into about 60 major production companies and all the studios. I can tell you the reason why we got those 35 scripts in was because in the first 3, we figured out how to deliver professional pitches so that even if they say no, they still go, wow, you know what you're doing. You know, we'd be willing to listen to projects from you in the future, right? So your pitch can give you as much or more credibility than your script. Please know that. And let me back that up with this. Producers are pitching all the time. That's their job. They pitch first. If, let's say, they option your script, they immediately start taking it out and pitching it, right? Or at the point at which you've made whatever improvements they want, they take it out and they start pitching it. And they're pitching it to studios, they're pitching it to other producers, they're pitching it to actors, they're pitching it to funding sources, they're maybe pitching it to streamers, right? They're pitching all the time. So when they see you come in with a high quality pitch, a professional level pitch, they respect that. They really do. I've had producers come to me and say, wow, your writers are great at pitching. And there are some people that would act like, wow, that doesn't mean something really good, but it does. It means they respect their pitches, and so they're willing to look at projects from them from now on. So the way you build a network, one of the easiest ways is to market your script. Pick a script that you think is a great script, that's well written, create a pitch for it, go out to as many producers as you can. Those producers, some of them will request the script, some of them won't. But if what they see is a professional pitch, they'll be willing to look at projects from you in the future. D, fulfilling market needs. Now, I talked about this briefly just a moment ago, but here's my advice. Come in with the ultimate bait. And when we get to how you pitch, I'm going to tell you exactly what that is, but it's projects that are easy to sell and warrant multi-million-dollar investments. This is because that's the way the producer's looking at it, by the way. They're not looking and going, hey, I was just looking for something to read this weekend. They're actually thinking about money from the beginning. That's a producer's job. And if you have a producer who doesn't think about money, I'd be worried about whether they could make a deal or not, whether they could sell that project, whether they could get funding for it. That their whole job is to think about the business side. So they're thinking about, can I sell this? And will it warrant the investment for whatever investors or funding sources I'm going to go out to? So that's part of your job. If they're thinking about that, your job is to think about that. So I'll give you a set of some of the measurements in a little bit, some of the things that need to be in your pitch so that they'll see it as the ultimate bait. But let's keep moving. Levels of producers. When somebody calls me or sends me a text or whatever and says, nobody will read my script. And usually when they say that kind of thing, it means that they have tried, they've reached out to producers, and they're not getting readers. Why aren't they getting readers? This is one of the biggest reasons, because they're going to the very top at the very beginning. They're trying to get the script to the studio or to the streamer without really truly understanding what it takes to do that. And they get a letter back from the legal department saying, we don't accept unsolicited materials. You've probably heard that term before. Unsolicited materials means they didn't request it. right? And by the way, maybe if you're talking to the studio, it means you didn't have a path to get in there at that moment. So let's talk about how you can do this, because the big question is, how do you get your first project produced? How do you get projects into different levels of producers that are out there? And what's going to work for you, right? So here's the second. At the top, studios and streamers, right? These are the big ones. Major production companies are usually on the lots of studios. They've got some kind of deal with a studio, or they're the ones that have made, 15 movies and 10 TV series with the different streamers. Both of these are hard to get in without someone helping you in that door. And the someone usually is an agent or a manager or a producer that is connected to these people, right? So don't go up here. We did, but we were really good at the time. We were doing corporate training. We'd gotten into the largest companies in the world. We understood exactly how they think, and we brought that over here, and it worked. But what I'm going to tell you is there's a lot easier path. It's so much easier if you just go to the right people. So the right people might be mid-level producers who are willing to look at projects that meet their needs, or small producers who are connected to the big producers and the streamers. And let's go one step further, but I'll come back to this in just a second. And then there's one other place that might work for you, and that's small producers who make their own movies, right? This one is a situation where you've got a small producer or a director, and they have a crew, and they just shoot movie after movie after movie. Those are called filmmakers, right? And there's lots of low budget indie filmmakers that you can get in the door to, really easy. But there's also a lot of small producers who are connected to these bigger producers, right? And connected to the studios. The streamers in the early days, and actually all the way up until about last year, were inviting small producers to bring in projects. And so what that means is if a small producer has already done something with, say, Netflix up here, well, they can get in that door with your project, right? So all you got to do is go to IMDb Pro and look up who are the small producers that have made movies with Netflix, right? And there's strategies to do that. I'll give those to you at some point, but there's strategies to do that so that you can get in those doors, get to these small producers who answer their own phones, who read their own email. There's no gatekeepers between you and them. As long as you're coming in with some kind of pitch that works for them, they'll take a look at it. And it's, again, if it's something that fits and is something that they can take to the bigger players, you never know, you might end up hitting the lottery because you went to a small producer who took it to a streamer. So be thinking about this. And this is, a lot of times I'll tell people, you know what, the easiest way to create a career is to go to small producers. I learned that from A-list screenwriters when I would say, what kind of steps did you go through to get from your first script to being A-list? And a lot of them, their early steps were with small producers. They made a movie with a small producer, or they made 3 or 4 movies with small producers, or they connected with a small producer that got them in the door of a studio. And so it's an easy place. You have access. It's worth doing. Remember this, getting in the door, again, is about credibility. It's about targeting. It's about having a great pitch. And it's about the numbers game. Let me move that over. It's about playing the numbers game, which means you don't look and go, oh, I sent out 4 script requests and I sent out 4 emails and I didn't get a script request. That's not the numbers game. The numbers game is I send out 100 before I even make a decision on that. And by the way, if you get 3, 4, 5 from 100 script requests, if you get 3 or 4, 5 script requests, that's it. It's like, it's absolutely worth it. It costs you nothing to send those emails. You didn't, all the people who say things like, oh, I got rejected and all that kind of stuff. There's no rejection there. You just sent out some emails and some people didn't answer and a few requested it. So if let's say it takes you 100 emails to get 5 producers to request your script, then you've got a formula. If you want 20 producers, you go out to 400, or if you want 20 script requests, you go out to 400 producers, right? And that's the numbers game. You don't worry about the ones that didn't say yes. You're only focused on finding the right ones for your project. Building your credibility now. So to me, credibility is about making smart business decisions, right? And it's about taking action on those. And smart business decisions means a whole bunch of things. It could be everything from what your project selection is, how you choose your next project, to doing whatever it takes to get in certain doors. But from a credibility perspective, let's just talk about a few things. If you're trying to build your credibility, I'll point you in about 6 directions here. One is contest. And here's my main advice on contest. Don't just throw stuff at the wall and hope that it can stick. Really, if you're going to some of the big contests, like, I love these contests. I love Nickel, Austin, Final Draft, Page. Those 4 are great contests. But if you're going to those contests, you're going to be up against 2,000 to 5,000 writers, maybe even more with Nickel. And the quality of your writing is going to make a big, big difference there. So, what I would be doing is I'd be looking at whatever your script is right now. What can you do to elevate it and then meet whatever the deadline is and get it into contest and see how it fares. If it does well, spectacular. Congratulations. If it doesn't do well, that gives you a chance to look at it with a little more critical eye, but not shutting yourself down. Just going, all right, what could I improve here? What could I do in a rewrite that would have it win next time? You can do it. Coverage is another place. If you get a recommend on coverage, that is a marketing tool. That will get you indoors. And the reason why that matters is because producers look at a recommend on coverage as someone vetted that script who knows what they're doing, and they said it's worth reading, right? And that means that the producer isn't looking at something that has a lot of typos, has a lot of problems with it, or any of that kind of thing. Somebody has already confirmed that that script works. So it makes it worth their time. Being optioned is another one. And by the way, I'm putting this list up here, and I'll put a few more so that you can start to go, okay, I can intentionally build my own credibility. I'm in charge of it. I'm in control of it. And that way you don't have to wait on an agent or a manager to sign you or something like that. You can actually build your credibility beforehand. So when you go to that agent or manager, they're already going, wow. And then movies made. Having an option means one thing. If you're an option screenwriter, being a produced screenwriter is the next level up. And this actually can change your life. Because as soon as you're a produced screenwriter, that means not only has your script been optioned by a producer, but then you have worked with the producer all the way through that whole process, and the movie got made. It's up on the screen up there, right? So you know how the process goes. You're at a higher level. Producers, managers, and agents respond to that. Then the question is who you are. And you can raise your credibility here by becoming a subject matter expert on something. And let me say this. Subject matter expert used to only mean that you had a degree in something or you had worked in that field for a long time. That changed in the last about 10 years or so, and it's really changed recently. You could become a subject matter expert in 3 days right now. Really, you could, like, let's say you've already written a script and it's about a particular thing, and it's something we haven't heard before, something new, unique, whatever it is. You could go out and find 5-10 people in that field to interview, do interviews over the next week, come back at the end of a week. And when you sit down with a producer, you could say, you know what, I got fascinated by this subject and I went out and interviewed a whole series of experts on it. And out of that, I put together this project. Now you are a subject matter expert in that particular subject because you've interviewed the experts, right? There's other ways to do that, to create yourself as a subject matter expert, but start by asking, what are you already great at? What things are you already a subject matter expert besides writing, right? Whatever that is, that may be something you may want to write about. Or what could you create for yourself to become a subject matter expert? Also having master level professional skills, right? This is another part of who you want to become in order to make sure that you're in the door. What I can tell you is this, having gone into lots and lots of meetings myself, having gone into meetings with other writers, when a writer can respond to what the producers are asking and make the changes right in front of them, right? Having that level of skill blows them away. And I can tell you story after story on both sides. The stories about writers who couldn't make the changes and got in an argument with the producer and killed the deal. Or the other side is, like I took one lady in to Paramount, we met with a producer, the producer is asking for changes right there. He had read the script, he really loved her writing, but he wanted 3 things changed. She sat and brainstormed them right in front of him and came up with solutions that he was blown away by. And because she was able to do that, that guy walked us all the way out to our car, talked with us the whole time. He was excited about working with her. He chose to move forward with the project, but he told me afterwards, he said, you know what? She was amazing. He says, I would work with her anytime. That's somebody who has this level of skill. That gives you serious credibility. And then maybe about the project, right? Do you have a high quality pitch? Do you have something? Do you have a high concept? Do you have something with a great title? Do you have something that the moment you say it, it lights producers up, right? Is there great writing then? When they read that script, is the first thing that they see something that they go, wow, this writer knows what they're doing. And then the other possibility is if you have intellectual property that you have the rights to. Now, let me say, sometimes people will say, well, what about public domain? And it's like, if you're writing something that's in public domain, the key thing you got to worry about is that somebody else is going to write it too. So if you're bringing in something that's in public domain, you need to come in with a unique perspective on that particular public domain project, something that they can't get by just reading the book, right? But I would recommend that you find a project, if you're going to do this, and get the rights in writing, because that means you're the only human being on the planet who can write that project. And that makes a big difference from a power perspective. So, number 4, now we're going to craft your pitch. And let me point in some directions here. First things, read this. Producers are there to find something that can sell. You need to present them with what I call yes decisions. And I'll tell you this story because this changed how I thought about pitching. I called up a producer at one point. We were doing an interview on the phone, and he said something about, sometimes people present me some stuff and I just go, yes, yes, yes. And he said, sometimes they present it to me and it's just a no. And I said, like, what do you mean? Kind of give me an example. And he goes, okay, I have a script on my desk. And he said, this is about 10 years ago when people had physical scripts on their desk. He said, one of the assistants, this is one of her friends that wrote this. So he said, I'm just going to take you through it right now. So he apparently picked it up and he says, first, I see the title. Here's the title. And he said it to me. And he goes, do you know what that means? I said, no, I've never heard that word in my life. He goes, neither have I. He says, that one's a no. Then he opened it up and there was like a pitch in there. And he said, he read the log line and he goes, would you say yes to that? And I said, no, it sounds like about 4 movies we've already seen. He goes, yeah. And he named off a couple of them. He said, so that's a no, right? He says, I wouldn't read past that point. But he said, let me just take it a couple of steps further. So he told me how that script within the first 3 pages had already had 3 other no's for him. And at the end of that, he said, there's nothing I can do to say yes. He says, it's all been no's. Now I'm going to show you what I'm talking about in just a moment, and you'll be able to look at your own projects and see where they are at the present time. If they're not yeses yet, well, then you can just go back to them and find ways to elevate that part. But here's a quick piece of advice. Don't give a book report. This is the most common problem. Last time we had physical pitch fest, I walked around the room. We had 300 writers pitching. I would say more than 90% of them were giving book reports to the producers, and they weren't getting script requests. A book report may do well in high school, but it doesn't cut it in this industry. So first, know that less is more. They want to know early on that this thing can sell. But second, let's just go to our graph here. This is our yes/no graph. Are you bringing in something with a yes decision or a no decision? So for the producer, if you have a great title, that's a yes, right? As soon as they see the title, they go yes. And by the way, for a producer, if they say these words to you, like we got 35 projects into studios. I would say on about 12, the producer said, great title, right? It's like that was part of their decision, was the title, right? Because that's part of how you market a script, is through the title. If you have an obscure title, that's a no, right? Like if I don't know what it means, or if you have a title that we have to wait till page 72 to find out what it means, that works well in novels, but it doesn't work here. So you want to be careful about that. A yes, if it's 1 or 2 genres. So, but like, let's say you say, I have an action story, and you're talking to an action producer. It's a yes, right? So far, you've given us 2 pieces of information. You told us the title, you told us the genre, both were yeses for that producer. If you're talking to a producer who makes horror movies and you have a rom-com, that's going to be, that's not going to fit well. And so that's just about you making good decisions when you do it. But here, let me tell you something else. I learned this from a few interviews I did with distributors. They said distributors are selling movies based on genre, right? Like if you remember back in the old Blockbuster days, you would walk in, and let's say I walked in and I said, hey, I want to see an action movie. Where do I go? And they'd say aisle 4. So I'd walk down to aisle 4 and here'd be an entire aisle of action movies, right? And then there was the horror movies, and there was the rom-coms, and there was the comedies. That's how they sell things. Go to Netflix, go to any of the streamers right now, and you'll see they have a whole list of comedies. Here's all these little icons. And it says the word comedy above it. And then you scroll down and there's rom-coms. And you scroll down and here's action stories, right? And then you scroll down and they'll say teen movies and stuff like that, right? They're selling based on genres and or audience. So if you tell them 3 genres, this is what the distributors said. They said they can't sell that. That's a problem. The only way they can sell in multiple genres is if you've had a studio kind of marketing behind it. Other than that, you want to either be action or action comedy, right? You know, if you're talking about a thriller, you might have a thriller that's a comedy, or you might have an action thriller. If you have 2 genres that are blended genres, that's totally fine. But as soon as you go to the third, it's like, let's say you say, I have an action thriller that has romance in it, and it's dark. And by the way, it's also a period piece. It's like, the more you talk, the worse it gets. Stop at 1 or 2 genres, and you're still a yes. Then characters that you can pitch in 1 sentence. And basically what you're telling them is you're only going to be talking about the lead characters. And you should have a way to describe them that gets right to the thing that either makes that character perfect for this story or makes that character easy to sell to an actor, right? And, you know, again, in different courses, we talk about how to do that kind of thing. Here's what you don't want. You don't want characters that you have to go, well, let me tell you all about their backstory. Let me explain why they're this way. If you have to do that, that's a no. So, and then answers to their questions. If you can answer their questions well, you're a yes, right? And by the way, you don't have to have the perfect answer. Like if they ask you, what's the budget? I've done this many, many times. I'll have somebody ask me, you know, what's the budget? And I'll say, like, I was talking to this one producer and I said, well, you know, I'm thinking plus or minus 2 to 4 million, you know, unless you want to get big stars, right? So you see how I'm still kind of tentative. I'm not trying to say, well, it's 2,347,000, right? Because then they're going to ask you who you paid to create that budget and all that kind of thing. You don't need those answers. If you have the perfect answer, that's the wrong answer. All you need is a range. And that's just a simple thing. So that's one question they might ask. You need to be able to figure out a range that works for them and works for the project. It's a no if you can't answer the questions. And by the way, if that happens, I don't want you to feel bad. Here's what we did. We would go in, like we did this a lot of times. We'd go in to pitch and we'd have like 3 pitch meetings set up in a single day with driving in between the studios or the production companies in between. We go to the first pitch meeting. The guy asked me a question I don't know the answer to. And I said, wow, you know what? I hadn't actually considered that one. How would you answer that question? And we learned a lot from questions we couldn't answer. Usually we didn't get the script request in that situation, but we learned enough to be able to answer those questions with the next producer and the one after that. All right, let's continue. Confidence. You having real confidence, not like I'm hyped up or crazy or any of those kinds of things, but real confidence where you're calm, where you can pitch when it's time to pitch, where you understand what's going on in the room, where if the producer says no, you just naturally handle it well and move to a transition to maybe talk about your next project or to come back another time, right? That's confidence. Here's what you don't want: desperation. And desperation, let me just tell you, in this industry, if somebody's acting desperate, producers consider that to be a sign of weakness. A lot of times writers will tell me, they'll say, well, I told him I'm desperate to get this script into his hands. And I'm like, oh, don't say that. Please don't say that. And they'll say, well, it didn't happen, right? Well, that's because the writer translated desperation as enthusiasm, when really desperation is fear-based. So everybody in the industry knows this. So don't ever say this word. Don't ever say I'm desperate to get something into your hands, and don't ever act desperate. What you want to do is maintain your confidence and maintain that relationship with them. So now let's look at the journey that you're about to go on. And here, I'll move over just a bit here, because this actually is pretty amazing. The objective of this journey is to continually build your confidence. Wherever you are right now, you want to keep moving up this, and you want to keep getting more and more confident and comfortable with the process. So let me give you some steps. These came from interviewing, I probably interviewed a little over 100 A-list screenwriters in about a 4-year period. And what I was looking for mainly was, what was their journey? How did they go from where you are to where they are? What did it take to make that happen? So let's just go through some of them here. First is the thing I said earlier. They learn, they create, they write every day, right? They don't just write every day. They're also still learning, still creating. And anybody in this industry, by the way, who tells you they're done learning, please know they're a dinosaur in the next 4 years. Right? Everybody in this industry knows that somebody who stops learning is going to be history very, very soon. Things are changing so fast. So it is worth learning every day, creating every day, and writing every day. Then it's about mastering professional level skills. So you can start doing this. You can start learning, creating, and writing right now. You can do that in 5 minutes after we're done here. But mastering professional level skills means you stop looking at how do I just do something in an average way, and you start saying what actually fits into professional skills. It's not just how you put the words on the page. It's a lot more about the decisions that you're making that cause that page to be amazing, right? And it's about learning the kinds of skills that will have your writing stand out to them. If you're talking about contest, I would say if you have professional level skills, you're going to be hitting the top 5%. Yeah, just this means you're coming in with higher quality writing, with higher quality intros, with higher quality characters, with higher quality structure, with the dialogue being something that delivers on multiple levels, all of those kinds of things. And as you're doing that, of course, that's building your confidence. Then you want to make professional decisions. And this, like, if you're looking at writing your next script, let's say right now you're thinking about it and trying to make the decision as to what do you write next. That's someplace where you need a professional decision, right? It's like if you just do, okay, something popped into my mind and I'm just going to go with it. While that's a fun creative exercise, the question is, can it sell? And that really takes us to the next one. Is it a marketable project? Is it something that the project and the writing can sell? And so if you're about to write your next script, this is probably one of the most important questions you can be asking. Can this project and can this writing sell? And what does it take to do that? And there's a difference if you're just saying, well, I think it can, versus, yes, it can because it has this, which all fits this particular market. And it's an emerging market, or it's a market that's growing. It's a market where there's need, things like that, right? So there are important things that you need to learn when it comes to this that will, of course, build your confidence and your credibility in the industry. This one right here. I can't tell you how many times I've seen a writer who had one or two great projects blow it with a manager because they sent them the other projects that weren't marketable. When you talk to anybody in this industry, if you're handing something to a producer, if you're handing something to an agent, if you're handing something to a manager, most people spend a lot of time trying to make sure there's no typos and the reading is perfect, when the most important thing is that project marketable? If that project isn't something they can sell, it shouldn't be in their hands. You can submit those projects to contest and build your credibility. But when you're talking to people inside the industry who are making multi-million-dollar decisions, you want them to see something that can sell, and you want to make sure that they never see anything from you that can't sell. That makes a huge difference as to your credibility level and your confidence level. And then it's about walking through the open doors. Let me clarify what a closed door is versus an open door. Let's say you send a pitch to a studio and they send something back saying, we don't accept unsolicited materials. Please know, that doesn't mean a thing about you, not a single thing. That's actually not a rejection. That means that studio doesn't want to be sued by anybody, and they have enough projects coming in from producers, so they're not looking for things from writers they don't know. That doesn't mean anything bad. Remember that triangle. You can get in those doors in a different way, but those are closed doors at the moment. So don't let that bother you, right? It's like, first, we don't care about the closed doors. That doesn't matter. So I've had people before say, I've decided to stop writing because nobody would look at my project, and it turned out they only sent it to studios. It's just happened to be that that's a closed door. They didn't try to send it to the open doors. So the open doors are usually a little further down the pyramid, the small producers, some of the mid-level producers who, again, answer their own phones, who are looking for projects, who read their own emails and query letters and those kinds of things. Go find the open doors and step through them, right? You make that deal with that small producer, and now you're an option screenwriter. Now your confidence goes up. Now you work with a producer, that also builds your confidence. You feel stronger, right? And by the way, you never know, if you can find the right small producer, they might be able to get you into one of those closed doors, and all kinds of things could happen for you. But here's the big key. When you find an open door, unless there's some real serious reason not to step through it, walk through it. Find that open door and go in. Say yes to that opportunity in that moment. It's a sad thing to watch people who really have a chance choosing to say no because they're afraid that somebody won't respect the door they walked through. It's like, oh, it's a small producer, you didn't get into a studio or something like that. Listen, if you have friends that discourage you when you're about to make your first deal, step away from them during that period of time, right? You want to talk to deal makers, not deal killers. So walk through the open door, make that deal, write your next script, walk through that open door. Sooner or later, you have a movie made. Sooner or later, you have enough credibility to get into the bigger doors that were closed in the beginning. It's part of the process. It's part of the steps. And by doing all of these, just these right here, do all of these, you're going to thrive. You're going to end up being much more successful. You're going to have a real chance, and you will be building your confidence all the way along the way. So let's take this one more step here. The difference between A-List and you is that they have already been in this industry. right? They've already gone through this journey. They already know the stuff that you're about to learn, the steps that you're about to take. And really, you get to decide this. Is this your time? And I think it could be, right? It's like, you're here tonight because you're trying to learn, because you're moving forward, because you're trying to create more success in your future. If you make this decision that it's possible and that you're willing to do what it takes to be able to make it happen, that might change everything for you. Every one of those A-list screenwriters, I talked to them about these moments, these opportunities when they said yes, and they moved forward. But I also talked with them about this one. When did they decide that it was possible? And there were a few of them who decided it was possible beforehand. Maybe they had already written something and had some kind of success. Maybe they were just so excited about movies and writing at that level that they just went, yes, I can do this. And they always believed. But you know what? A lot of them had doubts along the way, and a lot of them had to re-encourage themselves. They had to take the next step. They had to go, okay, wait a minute. I'm really good where I am, but how could I get to the point where I could learn this at a really high level? So that's what this is about. Now, stay with me for a moment. Let me walk you through this class that really truly is the most updated version of what it takes to succeed in this industry. We just recently released this. We have only completed one of them. It's a 6-month-long class. I told you earlier, out of that one, we've had one person already win a contest. It finished a month ago. We've had, and she submitted her script about 6 months into it or 5 months into it. And it's a small contest. She just won. We've had 4 people who have already made deals, and we've had one person who got a manager in the last month. So this program is specifically designed to have you be able to take the steps that are really, truly pro steps. So let me walk through it and you can see. First thing, instead of coming in and just going, okay, I have an idea, let me just write. What we did was we talked with A-list screenwriters and we said, how do you write a screenplay? And what we found out was they start with the pitch. When they're writing their own spec script, they start with what's the pitch. They don't wait to the end to be able to figure out how to pitch it. They create the pitch first, and then they create the script out of that pitch, right? So we're going to start with that. You're going to, the moment you sign up, you will get an email that will walk you through how to create concepts. You'll come in with whatever ideas you have, pick the best one, and then go through and create a basic pitch for it. That will give you enough to be able to move forward with more confidence and to know before you even start that you know how to pitch this. From there, then we go from pitch to outline to make sure the story works, right? We're not jumping into the writing yet because there are some key decisions that need to be made here, and we need to make sure this whole thing works. Then from there, we're going to characters. And what we're looking for here is, what is it going to take to be able to sell these characters to major actors? Now, these may not be the conversations you normally have having to do with writing, but if you have these conversations, these are the ones the A-list writers are having. You have a much better chance of success. Module 4 then is about making your outline incredible. And sometimes people will say, I don't outline. Let me tell you 2 things. First, an incredible outline equals an incredible script. So going through the process of creating an incredible outline is going to raise your level of writing significantly. It's also going to change how you're thinking because you're making these important decisions up front. So once you have that outline, then we go to the first draft. And you'll notice it says first draft, high-speed writing. This industry values high-speed writing a lot. It is something that makes a significant difference. If you can write at a really high speed when you need to, That means you'll be able to meet deadlines faster. You will be able to get the producer back projects that they need on time. You'll be able to make changes quicker, right? But the other part is this. Once you've learned this high-speed writing process, which is something that we interviewed a whole bunch of writers that could triple their speed at will. If they chose to write faster, they could. Now, once you learn that, every script you write from now on, you will write faster. And instead of only writing 1 or 2 scripts a year, you'll be writing 3 or 4 scripts. So it is worth doing that. Once you have that first draft done, we will then go to module 6, which is our second draft. And here we're going to do something that a lot of people also don't do that will really help you out, which is we're going to give you a list of all the problems that people usually have in second drafts. You will go down that list. When you get to any that you have, like let's say you have a structure problem, and let's say you have a character journey problem, then you'll click on that and it'll immediately open a list of solutions. So you will have a solution for every major problem that you could possibly have in a second draft. You will only focus on the problems that you have, and you will instantly apply the solutions. What this gives you is a problem-free draft. Again, I've had people who have written 15 drafts before, submitted it for coverage, and found out they had a major problem in the character journey or a major structure problem. We're going to solve those before we even get out of the second draft. Then the third draft, which is module 7, here we're going to give you a whole list of ways to elevate quality. So you're going to look at things that actually keep most writers from selling, like for instance, your lead characters, how the high concept plays out across this script, how the opening scene works. You'll look at characters, structure, and scene and say, how can I elevate the quality of every one of them? Again, we'll give you a list on that of different ways to elevate the quality. You will go through, find the scenes that you can improve and elevate those. Now, what module 6 and module 7 did, these 2 drafts, is it took you already beyond where 90% of the scripts are that come into town. So that makes a huge difference. Then we go to module 8, and here we're focusing on amazing dialogue. We're going to give you about 20 different techniques for elevating the quality of your dialogue. You're going to go through, look for every line of dialogue you could improve. If you can elevate the quality of your dialogue by 50%, that might elevate the quality of this script by 100%. It could make a huge difference. And amazing dialogue in this industry, when people see amazing dialogue, they go, oh my God, this writer's incredible. You want that experience. And then from that point, we're going to go to wordsmithing to perfection. You already know how to do wordsmithing. I'm going to give you some strategies that will help you with making your script something that really appeals to producers. And finally, we'll work with advanced marketing campaigns. How do you get this script in the door, right? And we'll give you some of the highest level skills that are being used right this second to be able to get scripts in the door and to be able to do your pitches. You're actually going to create your 4 most important pitches. You are going to create those so that you have them from the beginning, and then you'll build a list or a network of producers. So this program is about taking good writing to great writing. If you're somebody who has, like, let's say you've only written 1 or 2 scripts, what this will do is it'll save you 5 years. It really will. These are skills. The development team that worked on this, we worked on it for 2 years, and we had people who are working in the studios right this second on some of those projects. So this will save you a massive amount of time. If you're somebody that's written like 10 scripts, what this will do is it'll point to where are the things that really will make the difference for you. Because usually if somebody's written 5 to 10 scripts and they still haven't sold, that means there are certain key things that they need to discover that will change their chance of success. So you'll find it in here. This program is the best we have ever created. Now, it starts actually next week. It starts on May 1st. I'm going to give you a special. This is for the first 10 people that sign up. The normal price on this is $12.99. It's starting, in like 4 days. Normally at this point, we would be close to the $12.99 price. But today, what I want to do is give you an easy way to be able to get in. This program, for the first 10, you can get in for $7.99. That will save you $500 off of this 6-month-long program where you are going to be learning every day, you're going to be creating every day, and you're going to be writing every day. And by the end, you'll have a project that is something better than you've ever thought you could create. So I believe it's absolutely worth it. All you got to do is go down here and click this link, bit.ly/SU-WIM. That's SU as in screenwriting U, -WIM as in writing incredible movies. If you want a payment plan to make it easier, use the other link, and you just simply, and by the way, on both these links, if they're not clickable, just write it down, put it in your browser where you put a web address, click return, and go through the process there. Payment plan, we can get you in for $119 a month. And that basically translates to about $4 a day. So for the price of a Starbucks coffee each day, you could be mastering your screenwriting skills and giving yourself a real chance at success. Again, all you got to do, just copy whichever one of these links you want. This one gets you in at $7.99. This one, I think the total is like $8.30 or $8.40, somewhere in there. It's a little more because it's a payment plan, but it gets you in for $119 per month. So this is a program I promise you will make a significant difference for you. So if what you want to do is make a major leap in your writing and give yourself a chance at selling or having something that can do well in contest, come join us. I promise you that you will love what you learn in this program. So with that, listen, I'll pause at this point. For those of you who come join us, I promise you, you're going to go through this amazing journey. By the end of it, the other writers in your life are going to look up to you and respect you. When you work with producers, producers will see you as somebody who truly knows what you're doing. So, and then, who knows what it'll do for your career over time. That's our whole purpose, is to do everything we can to help you guys get where you want to go. Everybody who graduates from this program goes into our alumni, where we have about 1,500 writers who have marketed their scripts, many who have made deals. We've had over 500 make deals. And we're going to have many, many more who come out of this program and make their first deal. So thank you for being with me today. I hope you got a lot out of it already, and I look forward to working with you. Good talking with you guys. Bye-bye, everyone.